Welcome back for our second talk in paper session 1. I'm so glad to see that we already have our speakers ready to roll. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Nina Exner and Dana Lapato from Virginia Commonwealth University. Go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Nina Exner and my co-presenter.
Hello, I'm Dana Lapato. I'm an instructor in the School of Medicine in the Human and Molecular Genetics Department.
And I'm research data librarian at Virginia Commonwealth University, and we're going to talk about collaboration for reproducibility, and our focus is on biomedical research instead of the social, behavioral, and psychological. We're going to talk briefly about VCU, what our goals are in the data science lab and our training series, kinds of trainings and other outreach that we do, and a little bit on how we've developed and evolved over time, and then lessons learned, which is possibly the thing you're most interested in here. VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, is an R1, very high research institution in Richmond, Virginia. We're an urban campuses, medical and non-medical. And some of the program strengths that we have are a very robust art school, extensive biomedical professions, and an engineering school, as well as the traditional evergreen disciplines and a lot of the social professions. And we have about 30,000 FTE students. So we're pretty big, but we're not the flagship or the land grant for our state. And we're talking about collaboration for this data science lab because the partnership is part of what lets us bring reproducible, transparent data science to a broader audience. The library role in that is events and guest lectures, but the data science lab works across a lot of institutes and centers. The lead PIs are in human genetics in the School of Medicine, but they have faculty affiliates in the library and in other disciplinary units, and they also have graduate student ambassadors, which is a really cool program. The obligatory, why are we advocating for reproducibility? When we advocate for reproducibility to a general large audience like OpenCon Virginia, it tends to focus on the usual things of the reproducibility crisis and retraction watch and sort of risk management topics. But we also talk a lot about sort of the growing value for the job market and trends in dissemination and in grantsmanship, and the benefits of reproducible practices for teamwork in academia and industry. So we try to take a somewhat broad perspective. As a data librarian, I have to talk about why should the library partner and what does the library bring. For the library, the Data Science Lab is one of our core partners for advocating for data management. To the Data Science Lab, I hope, the library benefits include organization, interoperability, and description, and using taxonomies and ontologies effectively so that the data isn't just the numbers, but includes good descriptions and organization for future reusability. And we also serve as a touch point for people coming from the small data perspective, coming from different disciplines, and generally the beginning learner reality check. We do a lot of different things there, and Dana's going to go over the evolution of these. There is formal for credit coursework up to and including certificates in School of Medicine and in computer science, but we also do a lot of one-on-one consultations, serving as key personnel on grants. We have different journal clubs, formal and informal, and we do a lot of brief workshops and one-shot seminars, and 2- and 3-shot seminars as well.
Yes, and quite a few of those seminars focus on the open science framework. So where did this all start? Well, there have been a lot of courses and seminars that have been going around VCU, but on the medical campus, it really got kicked off in 2006 when Dr. Timothy York started doing a lecture series and seminars about introduction to R and bioconductor. And that evolved over time into a formal course called Introduction to Statistical Genetic Programming in R. And this course was specifically designed to be accessible to our master's and PhD students in clinical genetics. And it became more general over time. And the reason that we had this was so that the clinical students had tools to do data analysis with their thesis projects. And then later on, 2016 is when the data science lab officially began, which freed up a lot of funds and time and resources. And that's when things really began picking up as far as the activities we could offer. We had the OSF workshops kicked off, and the 1-credit class that had begun primarily for clinical genetics students developed into a very general course called Data Science 1. It's 3 credits. I'll talk a little bit more about that one in a second. But it also had enough interest generated to develop other specialty courses like methods in data science and a human genetics specific reproducibility journal club. And we also recently established a reproducibility chapter here at VCU. If you are not familiar with the reproducibility movement, it's an international open science group that is working towards improving open science methods and uptake. And this is a great group because it's really informal, it's very inclusive, and because we meet once a month for an hour, it makes it very easy, regardless of how busy your schedule is, to find time for that. And we've included a link to our OSF page for our reproducibility group.
And I think our reproducibility is a little bit different from others because we focus a little more on the biomedical instead of the psychological. And then because it's partially run by a librarian, we also talk about general scholarly communications and dissemination topics, which is maybe a little more in line with other reproducibilities.
Definitely.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're great. So that's probably the smallest time commitment. On the flip side is Data Science 1. Now this is a graduate level course. It is the focus is learning R programming so that folks can generate reproducible reports with R Markdown. And we talk a lot about rigor and transparency, data handling, making data dictionaries, how to create the data in the world that you would like to see and access. And we talk about pre-registration, a lot of those topics. And what makes our data science class, or at least this one, unique at VCU and different from a lot of other universities is that no prior coding experience is expected or required. We start day one, we all install R together, and we go from there. And in general, folks learn quite a lot. And in the next slide, we actually have a video of a report from one of our students. She started the class having never coded before, and this was a project she turned in. And this was her project after 10 weeks. It's a 15-week course. And so the students get to pick the topic. She wanted to analyze data about alien encounters, which is very cool. And so she made publication-ready figures, tables, and also she knows it's being shared. She was okay with that, and we checked with her. And so, yeah, this is the kind of progress we have folks make after 10 of the 15 weeks, going from, no coding through coding. Okay, so lessons learned. The first lesson I would really want to hammer for anyone who is starting to think about maybe you want to have a data science lab or some sort of group, some hub of training, is that it's got to be interdisciplinary. Personally, I benefit so much from talking to folks who are doing different kinds of research and also talking to folks in industry. And knowing myself, I'm a computer nerd. I love programming. Probably been programming almost half my life. So it's something natural to me. It's something I enjoy. And if you ask a computer nerd what's necessary to know, it's going to be a different answer than if you reach out to a data librarian and you say, hey, what are folks struggling with most common? Where are the common pain points? The second thing we learned is that if you have the bandwidth and you can vary the time commitment for training opportunities, that's really going to help with engagement. So when we think about the time commitment of, a couple of our different activities that folks do, so we've got, thank you. So reproducibility, that's easily the lowest time commitment, 1 hour once a month. Our OSF workshops tend to be half a day, so 4 to 5 hours. If it's a formal class, like either a 1-credit journal club or a 3-credit coding class, that's considerably more time. And we frequently have faculty say, well, no, I can't commit to coming in for 15 weeks, 3 credit hours. I don't have the time, which is totally fair. And what we have found is that if you can get their graduate students to come in for that time, and they start turning into their advisors these reports with these, pretty figures, and for our advanced data science class, we make Shiny apps that the advisors get interested. And so they come and ask, well, I'd like to do a little bit more. I don't want to do the class, but do you have anything else? And to be able to say, well, yes, we have reproducibility. Why don't you come to that? Or some of these smaller workshops, it really does help build excitement and get people involved. And definitely want to emphasize the importance of assessment. So asking your learners, what did you get out of this? How is it working for you? What could be different? What could be better? It has been super important for evolving our programs and making sure that they are engaging and effective, and that you're meeting their goals.
And I think this year, a couple of the things you said, if I remember correctly, that we learned in data science, people needed more self-service skills and sort of standard things that you would normally learn as a computer science person, how to use Stack Overflow, how to read a cheat sheet, things like that.
Yes, this was the first year that we did one class on metacognition, so learning how to learn, and the students loved it. They're like, we definitely want more of that next time. So if you have the time to do it, teaching folks how to learn, or just spending time on how do you use these resources so that they can teach themselves, huge.
And I forgot to mention earlier, one of the co-instructions we've done is with the School of Medicine's training and fellowship programs. And some of you may know, but some of you may not. In the US, the NIH has made addressing reproducibility and transparency in training grants a scoreable part of the grant application. And so we set up this new class, or we partnered. We were just 2 of the 5 sections to work on that. And that's also depended a lot on assessment for keeping the process evolving.
Definitely.
So we'd like to acknowledge the OVPRI, our Office of the Vice President of Research, is the main funder for the Data Science Lab, but the lab was set up by Tim York and Aaron Wolin, and they really did the heavy lifting at the library. Margaret Henderson was huge in helping with bringing in OSF and also establishing a partnership from the library. Dana, did you have any other acknowledgements?
Yes, I did want to give a shout out to the Center for Open Science. They're just an hour down the road, and they helped us get started with the OSF workshops and a lot of our materials early on. So super thankful and appreciative of their work.
And so I guess we're ready for the Q&A, but please feel free to contact us if you want more detail. We kind of summarized a lot in a short period of time. These are such short talks.
Yes, they are. And thank you so much. That was a wonderful talk. We have a few questions in the Q&A. So the first one is, are any of the course materials open?
Oh, one. Yes, they are. So they are all on the OSF. And what I will say is that in between semesters, I tend to clear things out, but I usually preserve the old semester so you can look back and see how it's evolved. Folks are welcome to take the scripts. They're welcome to take the presentations. We are in the process of making the video recordings public. Right now, they're not because they include student likenesses, so we are not permitted to share those, but we are in the process of re-recording those with transcriptions.
Great.
And I think in a year there'll be an OER textbook coming out of this too.
Yes,
about
we
a
just
year.
won an Affordable Course Content Award to create an electronic textbook with book down. So yes, we have open materials. We are happy to share slides, scripts, reading lists. We're open to sharing it all.
Great. I imagine folks will be visiting your OSF page. Another question was, how many students train easily and how many are hard to train?
So the classes, the different groups we've had, I would say, just thinking over it, we use the Tidyverse, which has made it, in our programming, that has made things a lot better. I would say, in general, about 80% of the people who start by 5 weeks, if they are practicing at least, probably at least 4 hours a week, 5 weeks, they can start doing their own analyses and writing their own articles in R Markdown. It's the polishing it, making it look exactly how you want. That tends to be what people get really excited about and what takes a little bit longer because it's a little finicky to code that stuff. But actually just diving in and getting a report done, everyone does that pretty quickly.
I'll go for a quick one because I think I maybe already know the answer to this, but what was the international network you mentioned that meets 1 hour a month?
Reproducibility.
Yes.
If you Google reproducibility with TEA like the drink at the end, there's lots of different reproducibility in programs and reading lists there.
And then the other question that's here in the Q&A is maybe a bigger picture question. Are these types of data science classes common in undergraduate contexts?
I have not found them to be common in undergrad. I'm not sure why. I know we're starting to move on to the undergrad campus, but Nina, perhaps you'd probably have a better sense of what's going on in the other campuses. You've got a foot in both worlds.
I do. Engineering does have some things that are more towards the data science as well as things that are more towards the computer science. This is a slightly different perspectives. And our business school also has sort of analytics that I would classify in the data science, but the strong transparency and reproducibility is really more in our non-medical life sciences. We actually have a really big computational biosciences, including an undergraduate program, and then in the medical campus, and psychology, of course.
Yeah, psychology is real strong.
On the non-medical campus.
All right, well, thank you. Again, these are very short talks, so thanks for answering questions quickly. And everyone else, please do feel free to follow up with Nina and Dana either at the tables or afterwards using their contact information. So we'll pop back out for a minute so you can switch buildings if you want. Otherwise, see you back here in about a minute. Thank you again.